So the next couple of slides are going to be practice. So what we're going to do is work on finding the inverse of functions. And then we're going to think about, is the inverse a function, why or why not? And if you just recall, remember a function graphically, we can figure out whether or not it's a function by seeing if it passes the vertical line test. But first, let's figure out how to find the inverse of a function. So graphically, so I mentioned that it's a reflection about the y equals x line. And some of you may be pretty brilliant and you can reflect that in your head. And if you can, go ahead and sketch it out. So for this, I want you to use your tools over here and you would sketch the inverse of the function like onto this graph. I would recommend choosing something other than this bluish purple, maybe red is a good choice, or even green to let it stand out. I'll give you a hint for those of you who struggle to reflect, and I originally did struggle to reflect these graphs. I've been doing it a little more, so I'm getting a little better. But one thing I find helpful is to actually plot points. So here I put a point grabbing tool here, and the cool thing is if you drag, it'll create a new point for you. So remember that an inverse for a point, you just swap the x and y. So I would actually identify points that are easy to find on this graph. Like for example, I see right here, this is easy. I'll put the point here as a guide. So -4, -5. I'm sorry, x equals -5, y equals -4, right? That's one point. So in order to get the inverse, I'm just going to swap it. So I know -4, -5 is a point on the inverse graph. So I'm actually going to move this to -4, -5, and I'll put my point right here. And I'm going to do the same thing. I can keep finding points. This is a pretty easy one, so I'm going to grab another point over here. So it looks like -4, 0 is a point. So that means I could swap it. 0, -4 will be a point. So I'll put a point right here. And if you keep like putting points, and I'm going to put a point right here. So I know that this point, wherever the graph crosses this line, it's going to be a point in my graph. So it's going to help me draw a little better. You might decide to pick a couple more, like whatever you need to do to help you figure out the shape. So I know I'm going to have a point here as well. So keep picking points, and then once when you get your points, you can draw a line, right, connecting them to your graph. So I'm going to let you have fun with this. So you're going to finish, and once when you're all done, you can check your answer by sliding out this little box. So you're going to have your graph, and once you have your graph, you're going to ask the question, is this graph a function? And then why or why not? How do you know? Once when you're done with this question, you can then go to the next slide. And you have another. So we're going to have a little bit more fun. It's taking a while to load. But you're going to have another graph, and I gave you another set of points to grab just to help you if you decide there's our graph. So you're going to find the inverse of this function, and you're going to decide whether or not that inverse is a function as well, why or why not.